Configuring accounts in Leech Ftp. This tutorial will show you how to configure Leech Ftp to connect to a server via FTP. In Leech Ftp, the saved settings for specific connections are called bookmarks. Before we add a bookmark for our FTP account, let's look at some of the global options that will affect how Leech Ftp interacts with the server. Click the File menu. Click Options. These options control how the interface is displayed. Click the Files tab. These settings control logging and miscellaneous file handling options. Click the Transfers tab. These settings control options for the transfer queue. Click the Sounds tab. Here you can assign sounds to various events. Click the Firewall tab. If you're connecting from a network that requires you to use passive connections or route FTP traffic through a proxy server, you can configure those settings here. Click the Connections tab. These settings control how inactivity and request timeouts are handled. Connections may be terminated for inactivity from the server end as well, regardless of what the settings here are. Click the HTTP tab. These settings handle proxy server settings for HTTP requests. Click the File Types tab. Classic Mac OS, Windows DOS, and Unix-based systems, such as Linux and OS X, all have different hidden characters that symbolize a new line in text files. When transferring text files, such as scripts, web pages, HTML, and other text documents from one system to another, you will need to transfer them using ASCII mode so that these characters are converted so that it is compatible with the new system. Transferring other files, such as images, compiled applications, etc., need to be transferred using binary mode, as the attempt to convert them will corrupt the files when they're transferred. In most cases, the default auto mode works fine for detecting which file types need to be transferred in ASCII mode and which ones need to be transferred using binary mode. This list demonstrates what file types by extension should be transferred via ASCII mode when using the auto setting for transfers. Let's add the extensions commonly used for PHP and CGI scripts to the list. Click the Accept button. Now let's add the bookmark for our account. Click the Bookmarks tool. Click the Edit menu. Leech Ftp requires you to create a folder for your bookmarks before you can add them. Select Add Folder. Enter a name for the folder. Now let's add the bookmark for our account. Click the Edit menu. Select Add Bookmark. Enter the host URL. Typically, this is. If your domain is still pointing to a different server or your DNS changes have not propagated yet, you can use the IP address of the server instead of a fully qualified domain name. Click the Personal Login Radio button. Enter the username. Enter the password. Enter the remote directory. For primary domains on cPanel accounts, this should be. For subdomains and add-on domains, if when connecting with the cPanel user, this should be. For subdomains and add-on domains when connecting with a separate FTP user, this should be. For primary domains on Plesk accounts, this should be. For subdomains on Plesk accounts, depending on the configuration of the subdomain, this should be. If this field is left blank, the remote directory will default to the user's home directory. Click the Advanced Settings tab. Here you can specify the local directory where the files are stored for this site on your local machine. Leech Ftp will then automatically open that local directory when first establishing a connection to the server. Click the plus. Click the directory. Click the OK button. Click the Connection Settings tab. Since we will not be connecting through a proxy server, we will uncheck this checkbox. Click the OK button. Leech Ftp automatically names the bookmark after the host information we entered when we configured it. However, you can rename it by entering a new name for it here. Now let's connect with it. Double-click the bookmark. Congratulations! You now know how to configure Leech Ftp to connect to a server via FTP.